Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited to introduce you to our guest today. Before I do that, here's a quote I picked just for this episode. The highest result of education is tolerance. Helen Keller, our guest today, a steward of tolerance, a leader in the DeNicola Family Foundation, world diplomacy, travel, cultural diplomacy, leadership at a high form. I'm so excited to learn today how to bring people together that otherwise would not be talking and communicating around ideas. Our guest today is an expert in all the above and a friend of the Culture Matters podcast, being that we had episode 208, the cause. Cosmo DeNicola has come on the show. So I challenge you to listen to that episode after this. Father of our guest and founder of this amazing family culture helping the world. Our guest today is Morgan DeNicola, the executive director of the DeNicola Family Foundation and a steward and student and teacher of culture. So I'm really excited. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'd like to under your thoughts first on this quote, because immediately when I was researching your views on tolerance, right? This Helen Keller said the highest result of education is tolerance. Why do you think she said that? What can we learn from it?
I think what I take from that is in order for us to continue to learn and to continue to grow, we have to be tolerant of all of those around us because we will continue to learn from all of those around us. And I think that you also learn a lot about yourself. So until you're able to kind of master yourself and how you feel about the people around you, you'll never kind of reach that peak of education.
Hmm. What's so hard about tolerating new ideas? And I'm asking because you've experienced all these different cultures all around the world, correct?
Yes, yes. I think a lot of the times the fear is what drives a lot of intolerance. New ideas threaten old ideas, and we like to be comfortable. We like to think we know what's going on. We like to think that we know what the next is going to bring because then we feel a sense of calm. And I think the moment we feel tested on our belief systems
Mm.
or how we live our day to day, we get fearful and immediately defensive to protect, to like justify why it is we are the way we are or what we believe, rather than just realizing there isn't a necessity to justify a lot of things. You're being challenged, and that doesn't mean necessarily you really have to change. It's just open your mind, open your worlds, and you could learn and you can voluntarily change if you so choose, or keep the way you're going. It's up to you.
Has traveling the world helped you broaden your own perspective as an individual, as a leader? Is something you recommend?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think getting out of our comfort zone, surrounding ourselves with different food, different music, different art, different people, you become more of what I like to say is a global citizen. We're all global citizens. We can be a more effective global citizen by going out and just experiencing new things because you really don't know what you like or what you dislike or until you've really experienced it.
Hmm.
And I think through travel, especially for me, I've learned so much about myself and so much about other people's struggles and how they view the world and why they are the way they are. And I've felt more deeply and connected with so many people, even if I don't believe the same way that they do. I love and respect them.
Hmm. Yeah. What would your advice to someone listening that feels that they're it's too heavy of a burden to to have that conversation with someone closer to talk about that topic or idea that just chills them, to their core? Are there things that you've learned to do to have those tougher conversations, or you know
Yes. I think the advice that I would give in having those tougher conversations, if you find that you can't do them, is for you really to kind of sit down and talk to yourself and ask yourself, why do I feel like I can't engage with this person or have these conversations? Why does it make me so emotional or uncomfortable? And I think through that process, you'll figure out what it is in you that you might not feel control over.
mm,
Um, I think that it really comes down to oneself, because if you know who you are, I've stood next to individuals who very firmly felt the way they did, and I've listened and I've understood, because I know that when I get home, I'm still going to feel the way I feel and be the way that I am. This person doesn't have that control. I do. So I think when you reflect and realize you're ultimately the one in control, the power's on you. It's not on this other person. And maybe you need to kind of sit there and think, why is it that I can't have this conversation if I know in the end I'm still the person in control?
mm. What's humanitarianism? That sounds like an overwhelming, almost out of reach term for me to grasp. Like, what is
I
humanitarianism?
think anybody, it it's wanting, I want to say that it's wanting to live your life to the success of your fellow man. It's wanting to, everything you do or anybody you engage with, you really want them to succeed and you want them to thrive. You want the world to survive. You want everybody to thrive and be comfortable and have an opportunity to be their best versions of themselves. And you figure out ways that you can do that, because we all can do it. I think that we all want to save the world. But it seems very daunting. And you need to remember
Yeah.
that saving the world is just saving one person and not even saving, just being there one person at a time, one situation at a time. Whatever you can do to just make something a little better,
Mm,
you're a humanitarian. It's very simple while simultaneously overwhelming.
mm. Yeah. Why do you think it's so overwhelming?
I think it's overwhelming because when you I actually have had this discussion about mental health and people that are trying to help other people or make the world a better place, and that it can actually lead to you being very sad, because once you not solve an issue but make something better, you'll turn around and there's another one. It's a never
Mm,
ending process. And I think that that's why a lot of people get very overwhelmed and burnt out and sad, because you'll feel like, I didn't save the world. I
mm,
didn't do this. I didn't do that. But you're looking at it wrong. It shouldn't be, I didn't. It should be, if I helped one person, one animal, picked up one piece of trash, you did it. You've already done it. You started to do it. And to start kind of reprogramming the way you view it from endless sadness and endless problems to endless possibilities. You
Can
just have
people,
to look,
or go ahead, sorry.
no, you just have to look at it from a different way. Is you have more opportunities than, you don't have to solve the world's problems. You just one step in front of the other, one day at a time.
What would you say to the person a younger person starting out their career that wants to give time, even give money, give resources, but feels overwhelmed even in their own life? Where to start? Or what would your advice be to them?
My advice would be slow down, figure out passions, what it is you really want to focus your energy and your time on. Because if you go too broad, there's going to be a lot. You're going to bite off more than you can chew. You're going to burn out. You're going to get upset. If you find a handful of things like our family foundation, we have cultural diplomacy, humanitarian recognition, conservation, and world health. Now, those are still pretty broad, but we are able to focus, okay, on helping people have better access to health. Focus. Conservation, we've helped plant trees, water wells. And with each of those things, you feel, okay, I have accomplished something. Did I solve world hunger? No. But I made sure a lot more people are fed. And I can go to sleep saying, that's another step. I think surrounding yourself with people that don't necessarily drain you, but help you when you are drained, is very important. I have a great group of friends, and we don't sit around and just talk about trying to save the world. We sit around and talk about other stuff. So you're able to kind of like get away from it, clear your mind. And my big thing is just knowing yourself, knowing when you're getting burnt out, and to step away, and how you can have your own self-care routines that help you ground yourself and not give up, and then get back out there the next day and just keep with it, and you will succeed. The only failure is if you quit.
What's you said conservation. What is that?
Yeah. That's, oh, well, just trying to help nature. Cleaning oceans, figuring out ways of using gray water, solar power. Conservation is just trying to decrease our individual carbon footprints and leave something a little cleaner, a little nicer, and help kind of the sustainability of man and the environment.
And let's what are some of the things that you got the DeNicola Family Foundation is doing in that realm that people that listen to the show can get behind and potentially support? Are there like
we work very closely right now with the Elmwood Park Zoo. They just built a cutting edge facility that is completely solar powered, use great water to flush toilets, cutting edge technology in animal care. We've planted trees with them. We've done cleanups. We like to normally we'll like partner up with somebody else that is doing stuff and just try to put some fuel behind them and bring more people and more energy and kind of help grow and get the word out. So right now we're doing a lot with Elmwood Park Zoo. Where we go from there, we'll have to see. We've worked with the Water Boys. That was an organization that did a lot of water wells in Africa.
wow.
Yeah, I think right now primarily we are focused with just getting the Elmwood Park Zoo going and educating on how we all can do our part with conservation. And they're doing some very cool breed to release programs for endangered species, and they really work hard on trying to have a positive impact globally in terms of animal care.
What why are zoos important?
Oh, I know I'll have some people argue with me on this, but I firmly believe that especially AZA accredited zoos, that's a standard for animal care. AZA accredited zoos are so important because it's, again, that experience breeds tolerance. If you are able to see these animals, you've now created a bridge, this part of your brain that you will have that experience of, I now feel when I think about this. I saw seahorse. I now feel when I hear the word seahorse. I want to help clean the oceans. I want to help, pick up my trash or be aware of the clothes I'm purchasing. And I think zoos will educate you on those animals, the care, the impact that humans have on animals, and how we can do a little bit better to help these animals, or at least try not to have any negative impact on them. Because, as the human population grows, we are getting closer and closer to animals, and we have to know, one, what we're looking at. I love the memes of the moms and the people that accidentally pick up coyotes thinking they're wild dogs. I think it's kind of important for education and empathy and tolerance of the world around us.
I want to see if I follow you. I wrote this down. It creates responsibility because these experiences hold us accountable.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, like if I'm a kid and I've had a connection with that experience, I might have a thought I otherwise wouldn't have. Is
Yes.
that uh,
Experience breeds education. And without experience, you also wouldn't have tolerance and understanding and compassion. It's that disconnect that sometimes is where we have that lack of empathy and compassion.
do
We
you think
never.
there's a connection between how we relate to nature and each other? Uh, like example, the person that just they'll do whatever to an animal. How do you know they wouldn't do that to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it also, I think, says a lot about a person's self. Like if you're throwing trash all over the place and don't respect your environment, do you really respect yourself? I think the way we are with nature, the way we are with animals, the way we are with the environment does kind of reflect on how we are, or how we might be feeling.
Uh, What are some effective ways you've been able to communicate with people that, for whatever reason, they might either temperamentally or, you know, whatever the reason is, but it might be hard for them to hear this conversation because of maybe some type of political caricature or characterization or something. Like, has there been effective ways that you've been able to communicate the value
I,
without becoming like relegated to some
yeah,
caricature or something? I
it
mean that with the most respect, by the way, like
oh
culture, right? Like,
yeah, it's always a test of self. I like to say tolerance and self-control is a absolute superpower. Like if you are able to respond, not react, or if you are able to really slow your emotions down and slow yourself down and listen. The best I have an example. I was bringing a potential presidential candidate from another country. We'll just stick with that. Um, and the other country was not fond of women. Um, and I think he thought Morgan was a man, and he didn't realize that I was the person taking him around. And I could have reacted when he seemed very rude, very abrasive. I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, calm down, listen, be respectful, because I don't know where this person has come from. I don't know why this person believes what they believe. And at the end of the day, I'm still a strong woman and I'm still going to be who I am. So let me just remain calm and put this person at ease, because I'm sure he feels like I'm going to kind of come at him. We took him around Washington, spent the day with him, very respectful. It seemed like his tension went down because I didn't escalate anything. I stayed calm, I stayed respectful. And by the end of that trip, he had a translator and he was like, "Will you be here when I come back for my next tour? I want you to be here." And in that moment, I realized I had an opportunity to be an example of why his beliefs might be wrong. So if you want to be an example, that's how you're going to get somebody's opinion, possibly to change. Me coming at him being like, that's really rude to treat women like that, and just being aggressive towards him, I don't think his opinion would have changed at the end of the day, but by me being like, you know what, I respect what you feel. Maybe through the course of our interaction, I can change your opinion without being forceful, but by being respectful of it. And it worked. And that's kind of the philosophy I take anywhere I go and with anybody, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives, different cultures. I take it from an observer position, because no matter what, like I said, I'm going to go home and still be the same person that I am. I want to listen. I want to be respectful. And through the course of doing that, I've managed to create some very mutually beneficial relationships with people that I wouldn't have really been able to create these and we get stuff done. And we affect each other in the process. And I think that's a big, people don't realize if you can just have that superpower of calm, you can get a lot more done.
What, yeah. How do we scale that?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't think I really have an answer to that.
Now, when you were young, were you envisioning that you'd be a diplomat of
No.
cultures?
No, I was a opinionated, borderline aggressive. I mean, up until my 30s. So this is a recent revolution, you know, in my mind and process that has brought me a lot of peace and happiness and connection with people. But it takes self-honesty, reflection, and a willingness to change. And I think those are very hard things for people to accomplish. And I just knew that I didn't want to be somebody just screaming at the top of my lungs what I believe, but I wanted to effectively impact people in a positive manner and practice what I preach. If I'm practicing, or if I'm preaching love, if I'm preaching tolerance, then you need to practice it. You need to be what you're preaching. You can't just say it because it's a nice hashtag. You have to be it.
How are the younger generations coming up misunderstood, or are they understood but lack leadership, or a combination? Or what's your view on the younger generation coming up? How, and maybe some of them listening, some advice?
I love the passion of the younger generation. I think that they're a fiery group, a very passionate group. I really like that. But I think that in order to have your flame kind of take off, you need to be articulate and patient in your thoughts and your feelings, and you need to really reflect on why it is you feel the way you do, and you need to educate yourself. This is a big one. Not just read these titles kind of zipping by in the internet, but really sit down and read and do your own research, because I don't think anything is as simple as reading a title and then getting really fired up. I think you need to dig, you need to know histories, you need to know what's really going on. And that involves speaking with people who have different opinions and perspectives, because that will give you that full view of what's really going on. And also, please, this is a big thing for me, know you're going to change. Don't scare people out of changing. Don't be like, man, you changed, or your opinion changed, and rip into people for that, because opinions changing can be awesome and great and amazing, and allow each other to evolve and stop trying. I think we have a tendency to put ourselves into these boxes to try to find our people. But in the process of putting ourselves in these boxes, we isolate, because this box isn't supposed to be with this box and blah, you know. And I think through that, we actually, in trying to find our people, completely isolate ourselves from the fact that we're all human, we're all connected, and we all have an ability to find something that we have in common, even
Mm,
if it's somebody with completely different ideas, perspectives across the world, never experienced. It's wild if you just stop comparing the differences, but be like, huh, what do we have in common? And how can we work together on something that we're both very passionate about? Stop trying to put yourself in boxes to define yourself. Just define yourself as as human, as who you are. And you might not be this same person in a year, 2 years, 10 years. So just let yourself grow, and don't bother with the boxes. It's not worth
mm.
it.
World Health, what is that even? That sounds overwhelming.
But, well, yeah, world health is that's a very broad topic as well. But I mean, world health is everything. It's clean air, clean water, housing, access to food that actually has nutrients in it, healthcare. Healthcare is a big one, and on a global level. So it's trying to help everybody have that chance at a healthy life, because if your body's not healthy, your mind is not going to be healthy.
Mm. What what's it like seeing, because you had a van, some type of van? Is
So
it, what country is that in?
that's in Malawi. No, we ended up, Malawi gave us the idea. It ended up in Lesotho.
Where
But
is that? What?
like mid Africa. Um, it is affiliated with an orphanage. So I went to Malawi first, to an orphanage where the children either lost their parents to HIV or AIDS, or they themselves have HIV or AIDS. Um, and this facility was run by Buddhist monks, which is interesting in the middle of Africa.
Wow.
And they learn how to make their own food, take care of themselves. They learn 3 different languages. Just incredible education system for these children to then go back to their villages and keep educating everybody. Um, and there was a little tension between the villagers and the monks who were getting the children. They couldn't understand why they were taking the kids. So in
Wow.
order to, yeah, there was a lot of tension. So we went to try to figure out how to alleviate a lot of that tension between the villagers and the children. That we weren't stealing, they weren't stealing kids. They weren't, I think the one thing where they thought they were taking kids to eat them. It was a very confusing situation. So the mobile van goes to these different villages these children come from the orphanage, and gives them food, malaria nettings, very basic medical care, to help them know this is a good thing. The kids are going to come back. We're going to help make sure your village succeeds. We're going to bring them back to educate you guys and, really thrive. And through that, there's been a much better relation. The kids have been going back. So they see
Wow.
like, okay, this isn't a bad thing. This is actually a great thing.
I have, did you learn about how much involvement did you have with the actual orphanage and how an orphanage runs, and like, is that something that you've learned
It
about, like
was
how to run an orphanage or lead one of those types of institutions?
No, it was a friend of mine. I made friends with a Buddhist monk, and
Wow.
she was on the committee with the group that ran the orphanage, and she was like, I really want you to see it. And I went, and I fell in love with the whole idea. Like, if we did this type of schooling system across the United States, it would be insanely beneficial. the children meditate every morning and, know how to cook and eat by themselves at like 2 years old. They were sitting there quietly eating their food. And they all were speaking multiple languages. They were learning like coding. They had a bunch of computers. They just were like a really intensive education program, but a lot of it was self-care and self-control as well. And I went and I just fell in love with the people that ran it, fell in love with the villagers around it, and got to learn just by talking to a friend, which made it a lot easier to have a lot of things explained.
Mm. Yeah, I guess my dream is to own an orphanage someday.
Oh, that's an amazing dream. Call me when you're thinking about doing it.
2034. Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
I
I'll
was
put it in my
saved
phone.
at 12 days old. I was saved by my mother. Uh, and I just skirted that by a second, but yeah, that would definitely be a vision. And so meditation is that's pretty amazing. Um, as far as bringing two people together that believe different things, what would be your advice on how to do that? Like, and how important is it that does your calmness or your tolerance, do they borrow that? Is that part of how you view that facilitation?
Yes. People feed off the energy around them. If you can maintain calm, not always, but more than likely, people will feed off of that. But I also like to find ahead of time a common goal. Everybody has a common goal with somebody. It's not that far-fetched. I mean, the most simplistic one is everybody wants to be happy. There are so many common goals that we have that if you have that goal and you start kind of there, and you start with a place of respect, or even mentioning, oh, well, let's say that Steve and Sam, right? Well, Steve wants to start an orphanage. Oh, well, so does Sam. And Sam's done this, and hey, Sam, Steve's done this. And you start kind of, again, that's humanizing a person with a difference of opinions and showing them the good, that there is good. There's good in everybody. You just got to look for it in some people, but it's a lot easier when you have a common goal. And a lot of times I like to say, like, people will sit there and say, so-and-so is a bad person.
Yeah.
And you'll ask, well, why is so-and-so a bad person? Oh, because this, that, and the other thing. If you got to the heart of so-and-so and you really kind of looked in them, what have they done that's good? Like, now start thinking about these little things that they could have done that have been good. I sat with a group that I had very differences of opinions with, and they had said a few things in passing that were hard. I mean, especially when it's personal to you. Like, I do a lot of work with my father, Cosmo, and he does a lot of work with the Papal Foundation. And the Papal Foundation works with the church and the Pope. I am a married lesbian agnostic. So you would think, how, I get that question all the time, like, how do you work with this group that doesn't believe you should be married, or believes that you are a sinner and things like that? And I said, well, first off, not everybody in that group believes that stuff. They don't. So I'm not going to blanket and say everybody in this group believes that I'm whatever it is that they believe, because that's not true. I don't know. I don't read minds. I need to talk to these people. And then I've sat down with them and they've said some things in passing, some of them. I was like, oh, I got so angry. Like, how could you think that? And then I continued to listen about all the good work that somebody who just said something really awful has done. But then they've fed hundreds of kids. They've clothed hundreds of kids. They've built schools. They've built houses. So I sit there and then I ask myself, yes, they just said something that was very hurtful to me. Yes. And I don't believe the same way that they do. But is that a bad person? It's not. That's a person who has their own belief system, but is still out trying to do something good. My job is not to change that person to believe whatever they're saying is, whatever. I'm still going to go home. I'm still going to be married. My wife's still going to be here. So at the end of the day, I'd rather sit with this person who's accomplished some really good things and done some really good things and said, okay, how can we do something good? How can we together, even though we are completely different, come together and achieve something that will be beneficial for more people and put myself aside, put my personal beliefs aside. I want to create something good with you. How do we do it? And I think that's what people need to have the ability to do, is know, just because this person said something you didn't like, really triggered you or really hurt you, doesn't mean that you can't create something beautiful with that person. And it's possible. And it might even be a little bit more respected because you had the ability to do that. And everybody can do that. It's just about that self-control and knowing, like, this person's opinion ultimately is not going to change who I am.
What are your views
And
on, like,
that's fine for them to
forgiveness?
have. Everybody has limits, but I'm an overly forgiving person. I think to a certain degree is I'll give you way more chances than I should have, because again, I think that people grow from their experiences and people do make mistakes. I'm full of them. My 20s were just full of mistakes. I like to think that I like to test myself in terms of forgiveness. I've done a lot of forgiving. I will continue to do a lot of forgiving, especially forgiving yourself, I think, is the most important. But I think forgiveness, the gift of forgiveness sometimes isn't for ourselves, it's for the other person. And if you truly want to help heal and mend, forgiveness is a big part about it. But that doesn't mean have learned from the situation, but forgiveness is really key to a lot of people's growth.
What do you think giving could do for our listeners? Giving time, giving money, living in a life of giving.
Giving time, an ear, a hug, the ability to give part of yourself to another person or the world around you, it's not giving a part of yourself. You're actually getting a piece of yourself. I think it makes you whole. By giving, you become a fuller version of yourself. You're taking steps towards being your most authentic self and your full self. I think giving helps with mental health, creating communities, creating bonds. And I don't think we've ever really started our journey into what it really means to be human until we've started giving whatever it is you have to give. It doesn't have to be money. I try to say that all the time because, oh, I don't have any money. Nobody said money. Oh, I don't have a whole lot of time. It can be as simple as being kind on social media.
That
Not,
exists.
yeah, like not getting into certain arguments, holding the door open. These little acts of kindness, they become viral. They become part of you. You become a happier, healthier person just by doing these very small things.
Hmm. Um, you know, when was the foundation started?
The foundation has been in the works. It started out as Cosmo Cares, and then evolved. Cosmo Cares was very small. That started in, like, I want to say 2016. And then the Family Foundation was around 2019 and kind of has now really come full form. Our website has just recently gone live. And so the DeNicola Family Foundation, I would say in the past year, has really come into its own and become really a competitor in giving.
Yeah. Well, why is that so funny? But well, because I guess, right? Because yeah, why is that so funny? Yeah.
Because we are humans and we still somehow love to compete, even if it's in giving.
Yeah, like I'm gonna beat the heck out of your nonprofit
I'm going to
by
do more
getting the
good.
most. Yeah, my my good is more good. That's amazing. What those that are listening that want to participate, what types of partners are you looking for? If like, yeah, what types of partners are you looking for? What do
We
you need? What can
right
help you
now,
guys?
right now we just need ideas. We want to hear from the community. What do
Wow.
you see that could use a hand? What is an issue for your community? What could help you? And then have a discussion with us on how we can work together. And you can be a part of it. You can be a part of the success. You can be a part of the DeNicola Family Foundation. You don't have to give us money. Eventually, we will be going into specific programs where we will be asking for donations and sponsorships. When we go to do our humanitarian award, we'll be asking for sponsorships, but that's in its infancy right now. But right now, we just want ideas. We want ideas. We want engagement. We want to know what you feel, what you want to see, and how we can help you achieve that.
Hmm. Wow. What's the award or the humanitarian? I saw on your website there's champions. There's like
Okay. Yes.
almost 70, at least that I counted, some champions over the years. What is a champion in your view?
It started as the DeNicola Steinberg Award. And
Ah,
Lee Steinberg, famous sports agent, he was the one that Jerry Maguire, they made the movie Jerry Maguire about. I'm sure I'm dating myself by that. But
great
we
movie.
started a humanitarian award with him that went to members of the NFL community. So between players, front staff, managers who were giving back to their communities. And we would acknowledge a few every year and give them an award at the host city of the Super Bowl weekend. And from there, we were having a discussion, and I was like, COVID had hit. And I said, I want so bad to acknowledge people in health, science, and the importance of, I think, the science community is kind of a slightly gone to the wayside, and I would really like to expand this humanitarian award to people in the sciences that are really helping us continue to thrive. And even from there, we're hopefully going to also have one in the arts, so it will be a humanitarian award, so sports, um, sciences, and the arts. We're working on the science, and hopefully 2025 will be the first DeNicola Humanitarian Award in the sciences.
And so, what are some things that someone has to exude to be able to win an award like that?
Very active in their communities and really trying to either research, cure, empower, like move people, real community leaders that have had a positive impact, a deeply positive impact on the communities around them.
And like, let's say that someone that's listening wants to support financially. Is there somewhere that they can go, or is that not yet where the
You know,
organizations?
we can take checks, but we don't have like an online yet. We're going to get to the point where we have online. We do have like partners that if you wanted to work with the NGO that does a lot of our cultural diplomacy, that would be the Humpty Dumpty Institute, Elmwood Park Zoo, if you were really into conservation. So right now we have partners, but we will get to the point where we'll be able to have donations directly to us. And I'm a big person on transparency. So if you say, I want this to go to this program, it will go to that program, and we will make sure that everything goes where you want it to go, because I think donors are beyond important in making sure all of our programs are done successfully and seamlessly.
Why was it called the Humpty Dumpty?
They were trying to put the pieces of the world back together. They still are. We still are.
Hmm. And I saw that it brings students to the UN.
We've done some UN boot camps. I think we're doing another one this year, but I think it's only with a specific group. I'm hoping that we get to a point where we open it back up and it's students from all around the world. I was able to go to 2 of them, and I mean, we had students from everywhere. I still talk to them and watch them doing some amazing things all over Vietnam, Turkey, China, um, Iraq, or did we do Iraq? Just Australia. We had them from everywhere, and they were incredible people who, again, just really wanted to have a positive impact and change the world. And they're all doing it in very, very cool, interesting, unique ways.
What's it like working with your father?
I love it. I didn't at first because I was in the business, and that just wasn't. I'm not keen on business. And I think also when you first start working with your parents, you don't want to hear their input. I I had a hard time with constructive criticism. I know you're listening, Dad. And I think over time I started to really appreciate constructive criticism, and I think we both learn very well how to communicate with one another. And we work very well off of each other because I come from more of the philanthropic side, humanitarian side, and he's very numbers and business, and he's a serial entrepreneur, has done incredible things. So we kind of met in the middle, and it's this perfect blend because even things like philanthropy and charity, it needs to be sustainable, and there's a lot of crossover, just like a successful business to have a successful charity and philanthropic endeavors. You see a lot of one-offs in the philanthropic world because people don't think long term and how to make sure it can keep going. And I think having his business mind really helps on that aspect. And then versus my kind of global way of viewing things and different perspectives, we make a very good team. I don't know if my coworker Natalie would agree. No, I'm just kidding. She sees us sometimes. We still argue like father-daughter. So there's still disagreements, and I like to say, well, what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna fire your daughter? I definitely get away with more probably than I should. But we work well together, and I like working with him.
What's he taught you, even through osmosis?
Oh God. I've been really lucky between him, my mom, who also is an entrepreneur, and my brother. My brother's just a very intelligent, tough guy. Between the 3 of them, I learned about uh, there's no harm in like a failure as long as you get up and you keep going. And everybody kind of fails, and you got to tweak whatever it is you're doing and to keep evolving and moving. And I think the big thing with my dad that's become part of my DNA is that anybody I work with is important to me. I value their success as much as I value my success. I want them taken care of as much as I want myself taken care of. I really truly view people around me as partners, and like to keep those relationships. And my mom taught me about the toughness because as far as we've come as a society, there's always going to still be people that challenge you because they either there's a lot of men that look at me and they're, oh, you're a woman. That still happens. It's life. And you also, you're constantly confronted with people that challenge you. And it's important to have a thick skin and kind of a resilience to it. Like, you're not going to stop me from having my vision or following through with that. And I think my mom taught me, my mom's a tough lady, and she taught me that, as well as my brother. My brother taught me that evolving as a person is one of the best things you can do. And my whole family, that's why it's the DeNicola Family Foundation. I have all my
Wow.
cousins, my aunts, my uncles. I've been very lucky. They've all taught me a lot of stuff, even though at a young age I was very, no, I don't want to learn from you.
And what have you taught your dad working with him, you think?
Oh God, patience? No. uh Probably, I don't know. I don't know what I've taught my dad. He always says he's definitely my biggest cheerleader. Him and my wife are my biggest cheerleaders. So he's always very encouraging, and he always says that not that I surprise him, because he's like, you never surprise me, but you always like blow me away. I think that a lot of, I don't know what I've taught him. That's you're gonna have to ask the cause on that. Maybe
I love it.
how to interact with different groups of people. Even he taught me that, so I don't know.
Wow. What are you most excited for DeNicola Foundation in the next 5 years?
Oh, we are really working hard on having a very good footprint in Philadelphia, all around the tri-state area. So we would like to have bigger impacts on local communities, be really motivating people out there to see positive change in one another. And we're also working globally. I know we've been working a lot closer with different groups in Italy, different groups in Africa. I just really would like us to get to a point where we grow enough to have more grants so we could help more people, and just have a bigger outreach, a bigger audience, and be more accessible for people to reach us and let us know how we can
Mm.
help them.
This has been awesome. I hope we can do this again. I have more questions. Um, thank you
Always
so
available for
much.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
I do want to ask what you think about culture and generally, is it important to you? Do you think, yeah, I would like, because your thesis seems like a very cultural thesis, because I wrote this down earlier. Coexisting, work with those that have differences of opinions. That's your thesis, right? That you've been working on, or
how differences of opinions, if utilized correctly, can actually help society flourish. And so in order for us all to flourish and have those constructive difference of opinions, culture is everything. Culture is, in my opinion, one of the most important things, because culture is in each of our DNA. It is why some of us think the way we do, why we act the way we do. It's how we're brought up, what is around us. And the more we broaden our cultural palette, if you will, the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we're engaged with the world.
that's what I'm trying to accomplish with this podcast. Have all different people from all different walks of life, and it's such a refreshing to hear, to have you on, and to know that there are people like yourself and your family trying to put these ideas into the world and put resources behind them. So I
Uh,
challenge our audience to listen to this,
Absolutely.
share this out, and thank you so much for coming on today, Morgan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you're listening to this podcast, share this with a friend that needs a wake up call. Things aren't just about themselves, there's a whole world out there. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks so much.